I had my kids and all of that. So
Okay, you are live. Good afternoon, Ngozi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Caroline, Cooper, and Kamau Emma. How are you guys? Apart from Kamau having his kids on holiday, we're spending time with his mom.
yeah, obviously everybody heard that.
Yeah. Yes. So, how are you guys?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good,
Yeah, all
thanks.
good.
How are
Yeah,
Caroline?
you?
all good. All
Yeah.
good. All good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So our topic today is unbreakable, how couples beat the odds together. And beating the odds together is today at Ngozi Talk Shows as like couples, how they beat the odds together. We're going to share the resilience of relationship, highlighting the stories and strategies and psychology behind couples who strive despite the challenges. And we are going to share some guides as well and provide you with some insights. Over to you, Kiro. And I know you chose this topic and tell the audience, please, what was the story behind it, or was there anything that was motivating you to choose the topic?
Um, yeah, I was just going through some of the talks we've done before, and in November 2021, we did How Do You Beat the Odds in Life and Business? And I just thought, how about, in relationships, how
Mm.
can you beat the odds? Because there's lots of odds in there as well. So that's where it came from. And I I just thought, okay, so we could perhaps explore what are the sort of odds you would get in a relationship with couples, and how can we get over those, and how beat the odds. Is it about beating them, or is it somehow maneuvering your way through them? So that's where it came from.
Hmm.
Uh,
Interesting.
what
Beating the odds. It's for me. It's an interesting concept to beat the odds, and I would definitely ask, what kind of odds are we beating? Are we beating the odds of the 50% of divorces? Or are we beating the odds of partners going apart, growing apart? I think it's natural for a partnership, a relationship to have its up and down. And the 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 main thing I would say would be to maintain a relationship that grows together and that doesn't completely grow apart. Uh, contra because of everything we see, right? Most of well, there's a meme, right? Or it's a saying like the largest was it the biggest number and the biggest reason for divorce is actually marriage. But well, for kicks and giggles, you know. But the idea itself of being in a relationship, it's not that simple, especially when there are two different people of two different characters, of two different personalities and different ideologies. So beating those odds depends on how you choose your partner, I believe.
mm. Because it is obviously something that all couples go through, and they've all got their own unique sort of challenges,
Hmm.
but it's about them facing it together.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what I think the key here is you're together. And how do
Hmm.
you do that together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's the whole concept of a relationship, right?
Yeah. Right. And the sort of odds that I sort of looked at, or it's okay, sorting to chat. So it's okay. So what sort of odds are there? I mean, I had a few ideas myself, but there's things like long distance relationships.
Hmm.
There's cultural and religious differences. There's financial strain, which is one I certainly know about. Um, Health issues. And then you've got blended families. Now, for me, when I heard that term, it was like, well, where you've got two couples, where you've got the partner from each couple come together. It's like I remember oh God, many years ago, there was a couple that lived across the road from me, and another couple that lived down the road. And the lady from one couple got together with the man of the other couple. So of course you then got a blend. For me, that's a blended family because you've got two lots of children coming together. So how do you deal with that? But then you've also got blended families from different backgrounds, so different sort of ethnic backgrounds. So,
Mm.
you know, how do you come over those challenges? Because I know a friend of mine, she married a Jamaican, and this is going way back, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
sort of in the 70s, where her family just turned against her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you go with that? And I'm sure a lot of families can resonate or relate to that. Um, and then you've got work-life balance, you've got loss and grief, and then you've got addiction and substance abuse.
Right, right.
How do you come together with that? You know, I know somebody, again, this many years ago, and she was putting up with a lot of abuse from her husband, who was a drunk, an
Mm.
alcoholic. And she stuck with him for a long time, but eventually did actually have to leave. But is there a way that could stay together or get over this? And again, it's about the togetherness, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think it's both partners wanting to make it work is
Oh,
what you can
definitely,
come.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spoken of something similar
Mm,
to that earlier, like in a previous talk, where it's more about, for me at least, it's more about the communication that you set from the very start of that relationship, right? And it's how, especially with mixed cultures and backgrounds and whatever you want to add to it, there has to be certain agreement where how are we going to grow together? How are we going to raise kids? What are the situations that we need to talk about that could be challenging for us? And unfortunately, a lot of people do not consider these matters that need quick interaction, quick resolve. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes because the further you push it, the harder it becomes because you get used to each other, you get sort of attached. We're human beings, we're prone to attachment, right? If you're a person that can detach from a relationship or from someone easily, then no issues there. Um, then again, you have different cultures, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different situations, and there are certain things that one or the other in a partnership, and I'm going to use this, which I don't really use a lot, should, the word should, be able to say, no, I don't want that.
mm,
This is a no-go for me. It's completely unacceptable. And especially, I mean, for me, after my experience and what I've seen is the most important thing to set your ground on are your values. Now, I'm talking about the core values. So let's say you have 5 core values, and usually what happens is that people say, oh, that person doesn't have this, but he doesn't have that, but they have those 3. I can live with those 3. However, how important are these 2 in your core values? Let's say one of them is honesty, and the person is kind of like, I'm not going to say shady, but a person that tends to, um, let's say, bend the reality a little bit, fib a bit, you know? How
mm,
how much are you really willing to take this on? And if you do that, that means honesty is not part of your values. And so you're down to 4. And then you keep doing that, and people keep doing that, and they end up with almost none of their core values, and they're living with a person that they've been for, I don't know, 1, 2 years, 3 years, and they're not living their true self, their true identity. And I think this is where the issue starts. It starts at the very early stage. I mean, Nomsa, you're a dating expert and all of that, and we work with you and all of that. However, you have probably a different perspective as well as where it starts.
I don't. I think the person is authenticity. When you begin to date them, you begin to see what kind of a person that person is. But then there's some people, like you say, come out that some people, when somebody's telling little bit of fibs and things like that, you know, the little things that we ignore from the beginning, those are the things that come back to haunt us later in a relationship. So I think if you see the red flags from the beginning, for me, like being a matchmaker, when you speak to somebody, if somebody is lying to you, as a matchmaker, we pick on that. And then that's when you have to coach somebody to say, right now, like if you want to join my agency and your agency, because you are part of, like, a client is the agency. And
Yeah.
if you want to be part of this and be successful, you need to change your mindset and start being honest with yourself. Because when you're being honest, this is when you find that true love that you're looking for. Some people, they will tell fibs with their ID, like their age. And you say, can you give me, because with the Hope Spring, you have to produce your identity.
Yeah.
By the time you say, can I have your identity, they'll be like, I might have told the fibs, I'm like, I'm not 49, I am 52. I'm like, why do you lie about your age? Your age is not blocking you finding love. It's got nothing to do with age. But some people out there, women mostly, they believe that once they reach 50s or 40s, no one is going to want them, which is a lie. So you don't have to tell porkies about your age or to say, oh, by the way, all those things, they come back to haunt you. Even the things that you love to do, you don't have to say them to fit Kamau because you like Kamau, or to fit Nomsa because you like Nomsa. Your man is there for you, specific as individual for you. I don't know, guys, if you agree with me, but for me, I just believe that, you know, to keep love very simple, and it's just you being authentic.
I mean, that's it, right? You said it, authenticity. That's it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what you said, you know, what you were saying, Kamal, about you set the ground on core values, and your communication, you said it right from the start. And it is that being honest, and as you were saying, Nomsa, right from the start. But what is important, if you can't be honest with yourself, that is where it starts. Because if you're not being honest with yourself, then you've got no chance of being honest out there. And yes, it will come back to haunt you, or even bite you in the bum in some way. And it can be more painful than just a gentle nip, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
That's the problem. So be honest to yourself. Wake up. And if you have these limiting beliefs that you're a certain age and that no one's going to want you, or you're a certain size, or there's something about your features, you know, physical features that you don't like because you think, oh, nobody will like me. Wake up and actually get some work and do some inner work on that. Because is that actually the truth? It might be your truth, but is it the truth? Is there someone out there that will love you no matter what? Because they love you, who you are, who you're being, that inner you know? It's got nothing to do with your physical features. It's got nothing to do with your age. It's about you. And so when you can really get to that and believe that, that's when you'll start attracting the people, or even the person that's there who's looking for you, you know?
Correct.
And it's something I'm still working on.
No, but it's, you
realized
know,
over
it's
the
interesting
years.
when you're saying you will, apart from you will attract it and being authentic and all of that, it's that the realization that unfortunately there are set expectations from women's side, both from women and men actually, but more from the women's side about what a man is meant to be. I mean, you grow up as a child, as a girl or a boy, and you get into teenagehood, and you realize, well, people value me for what I can provide and what I can do more than what who I am. And so you grow into that adulthood where you are, okay, so it's only what the job that I do, what I can provide, and that's what makes me a man. That's the male perspective, right? And so a woman will only want me for what I can bring on the table, not for who I am as a person. If I'm honest, my values, my beliefs, my ambition, or my lack of ambition, as a matter of fact, how I want to live my life. And on the other side, what I've seen a lot is women are taught, or they see that, oh, a man has to be working and he has to be doing this and he has to have this and he has to bring this to the table and all of that. And so there's a massive discrepancy when they grow older. The men can't find their partners because, well, all of the partners are gold diggers mostly. They're not looking for the person themselves. They're not looking for that heart, that soul of the person. They're looking for what that person can bring into that relationship, can bring into the partnership. And on the other side, they have ridiculously high expectations, so they don't match. And so that's a massive odd that happens in society, unfortunately. And very few obviously grow out of that, as you were mentioning, by working on themselves, by realizing, okay, this is who I am, this is who I want to become, and I'm not moving away from this. This is it. If you come into my pathway and you don't accept me as I am, well, then it was lovely to meet you. Yes, we have chemistry. It's wonderful, beautiful human being. However, it's not going to work out because we're not matching. If you don't match me intellectually, I mean, this is very straightforward for me. If my partner doesn't match me intellectually, or even higher than me, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. It doesn't work with me. I get frustrated. I've got ADHD, so I need something. Hello, right? If a person that comes to the in front of me and they're wonderful human being, but they don't plan on growing outside of their shell, getting outside of their comfort zone, being uncomfortable. Me as a psychologist and a life coach, I'm going to poke you around. I'm just going to test boundaries. I'm going to test things. You have to be able to set your boundaries and say, no, that's enough, or no, that's fine, or I want to experience something new. I mean, I'm an introvert. Funny. I know people say you can't be an introvert, but I am. And even I push myself beyond the limits of my comfort so that I can become the person that I am now, that I can speak publicly, that I can go in front of people and talk and chat and be a teacher and be a life coach and be a trainer, a karate trainer, and do all of the things that one does. So it does take work, as you're mentioning, Caroline. It does take that honesty that Nomsa was talking about. It's very straightforward from the beginning, I believe.
Yeah, it does not have to be complicated. Love doesn't have to be complicated, but the problem is, like what Kamal is saying, that nowadays, when you send someone, like when someone goes on a date, what is in their mind now is qualifying the man or qualifying the woman. It's like a ticking and ticking. They are focusing on that. You know what? Yeah, you know when you focus on the person, the rest, because what is important is if that person qualifies what you're looking for, what if they're not really the right person for you? So for me, I would say when you go on a date, just go on a date. Obviously, when you go on a date through a matchmaker, you already know that this person fits what I'm looking for. This is what they do. They fit what I'm looking for. Instead of wanting to tick, now we then have to look at things deep now. Because when you're communicating, like if I'm going on a date with Kamal, I'm not gonna date Kamal's money. Because Kamal might have money, but he might be the wrong person for me. Yeah. So he might have a house, he might be successful, educated, might be Kamal is completely the wrong guy. So all I need now when I'm going is to actually get to know the real Kamal. What does he bring? I already know Kamal brings this. Now I need to get to know him. if to see whether do we align our personality, does everything align with us, can we communicate, and all these things. When you're dating like for 6 months, some people they put on personality, by the way, but you can tell
Yeah.
anything that is put on it, you can tell. So you can pick on that. So you and then you see whether that person fits what you're looking for. And now I think Carol Anne's topic now, that's where it comes in. How do we actually become unbreakable?
Yeah, because once you've got together,
Yeah.
then there will be challenges
Oh,
that come
definitely.
Yes.
along
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
challenge you. You find yourself, as I say, maybe there's that long distance relationship. Like
Mm-hmm.
my sister, when she got married, her husband, he landed a job, and it meant that he was away each week. He was
Yeah.
either up north of the country, or actually he was in America. It happened, so he was away a lot of the time. So how do you navigate that? How do you still maintain the connection and the togetherness?
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age, I think it's maybe easier than it was all those years ago,
Yeah.
because you've now got the internet. There are more ways you can connect, more instant connection than there was then. So it is about staying connected, if it's through technology, and then making future plans together. So you know when you're going to get together, and you actually then create something special in those times,
Yeah.
so that you actually maintain that sense of togetherness within that framework.
Mm-hmm.
It's accepting where you're at, and it's not making it wrong or thinking, oh God, I hate in this. It's accepting it. It's saying, okay, this is where we're at the moment. Whether it's a permanent thing that's happening, or whether it might be long term rather than permanent, or it might be short term, but it's actually acknowledging what it is, and then how can we work with that together, making it such that it's workable and you stay together. So that's one thing. Some of the other odds that come.
I
Anything
was
else you
I
pick up?
sorry,
Where
I
did you go?
zoned
You
out
were
into
thinking,
your story here because I
yeah.
was thinking that the of how to maintain it. Obviously, I went really, really way back when I was like completely starting computers, right? Like building my own computer, and we started with the
Mm-hmm,
internet,
mm-hmm.
and we had all these old. There was ICQ and MIRC, and a lot of us nerdy guys. We had our online girlfriend that we never saw. and and one of the simplest things was actually having proper dates where you sit down and you chat with each other, and I mean, you can have a dinner date online now, right? Everyone has their meal. You can have
Mm-hmm.
conversations where you joke about anecdotes, or you tell each other how jokes like as if you were together. Um, and maintaining that relationship, it takes work, it takes dedication, like you mentioned, and it requires serious attention, especially when you're long distances. Obviously, it's not for everyone. A lot of people, other people need a little bit more connection. Others
Mm-hmm.
can live without it. Others learn to live without. Like for instance, in the city that I'm living here, most of the men are fishermen, and they go off for 3 weeks, and then they come back for 3 or 4 weeks, and so the community and the culture gets you used to that, and it's fine for them. For others, it's not fine, right? I mean, I believe I already 1 week away from my kids. It seems like an eternity for me. So, no, thank you. Like text my
Yeah,
kids, I call them, hey, after 3 days,
yeah.
you're okay. 2 days. So it really requires a lot of work. It requires that constant attention, whether it's obviously depending on how each person communicates, and understanding how the other person communicates, how to show affection, how to joke and tell the things that annoy you, as if it's a normal day. Just I'm just at work or somewhere, but I'm not far away. I'm here. I can see you, and maintaining that relationship, like you mentioned, having these certain routines in a sense. In a sense, not. I mean, I'm completely against routine. Um, I'm not a routine guy. You give me a routine, you're killing me.
But there's a way of having a routine, but not a routine. So
Exactly, right? It's a
that's
it's
it.
a it's a
Yes.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a non-routinely routine. So
Yeah.
that's a wonderful like it just that's why I was like dreaming away about how did we do it when we were kids
Mm.
and we had the internet, and once we started having videos we started having like proper video dates, right? We talk as if you're on a date. And I think one of the key things to maintain these relationships is you kind of experience experience it as if it were the first time. You know, like they tell any psychologist or life coach, when you meet a client, even if they have the same problem, meet the person as if it was the very first client that you ever had, so that there are no expectations of that. There's just zero expectations, and you're experiencing that euphoria of, oh, it's my first date.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is not to take someone for granted.
Hmm.
I've seen like let's say like my clients, like let's say when they become couples, uh they don't communicate, and then the other person assumes that this is what is happening, and then they start having fireworks, and then the other person is like, no, that's not what is happening, this is what is happening with my life. So I think communicating constantly, I think that is very, very important. And most men, they don't really like to keep things up to date. They just want to be left alone. And I don't think it works. There is lots of men who are not into personal development, but they just, sorry guys, my hands are green, my arms and hands. Yeah. And they just want to left alone. Those who are into personal development, they are lucky because they know they need to work on their relationship.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very important to communicate. And also when you've got kids, what annoys me with families, and Martin even tries to do it here with me, like where when you have children, there's this saying that children comes first. So
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, we prioritize our children, but I cannot neglect you because without you, I would never had kids, and you cannot neglect me because without me, we wouldn't have these kids. So yes, our children comes first, but if we don't have some me time, we might end up suffering, and the children will end up suffering. So everybody is important. So I think if you have this idea of children come first, the mentality, then you end up focusing on the children. I did this module with Paul McKenna before when I had my first daughter. That's when I realized like people just destroy relationship, like children, this like activities. They are 24/7 driving like taxi drivers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
putting children first.
No, it's insane. Like, I think what you're mentioning here is actually the prioritization of the relationship, of whatever you have to do in a relationship. Sometimes it's me priority, sometimes it's family priority, sometimes it's kids priority, sometimes it's partner priority. So you have to be able to not all have a set rule of, you see the routine. This is number one, this is number two, this is number three, and this is number four. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to shift priority. Um, I think it was called it's not called a hierarchy, but it's called a oh, it has another name. I'll remember it. It's basically it actually comes from the, if I remember correctly, from the from some sort of army, I can't remember who, where they have hierarchies, they have levels of like corporal, major, and captain and sergeant, but depending on the speciality of the person, that person can shift and be the general at that specific moment. And depending on the priority of the mission, they would shift. So the sergeant could be the general at that point of
Mm. So they shift
war.
rank.
Yeah, so it's a shifting rank hierarchy in a sense, which allows, if you can apply that to your priorities in life, then it becomes more fluid. It doesn't becomes dynamic, not completely static.
Stuff. Yeah. And I actually liked, there's a distinction here that you use, Nomsa. There's prioritizing, yes, your children come first, but neglecting, not neglecting.
I
So
like that word, yeah.
that I love that word, because yes, you can prioritize your children, but are you neglecting your relationship at, in that prioritization? So again, this is where this fluidity comes. It's like recognizing, well, if you are starting to neglect it, well, you do have to shift that priority and say, okay, let's bring that in again, because actually there is the priority here is both in many ways. So I think that's a great distinction there. Make sure you're not neglecting. It's not at the expense of the actual relationship itself or one of your partner, because they do have a priority, and they do have whether it's a priority or rather it is a place of importance, because that's what I think you were saying, Nomsa. Without your partner, you wouldn't have your children.
No.
So they're important,
Yeah, so he is
So it's
important.
exactly. So it's that recognizing their importance in here, not necessarily giving them a priority,
No.
recognizing it or not neglecting them. So I think it's these words, and I think it's playing around with words, which is what I'm really beginning to love, because you can be much more specific about what you're saying and be clearer about what you're saying. And this is where, when you're in as a couple, it is about having effective communication and understanding each other's words and being clear on the words and your intention. So if a word that they use doesn't really sit with you, you don't need to make them wrong. You just need to say so and have a conversation about it. And maybe have a play around in the dictionary, Google the word, look at other words and what it is you're actually wanting to communicate together. And you may find that there's another word that pops up that you both go, oh, that's it. Because it actually says exactly what you're both attempting to say. And this is where, because the English language is rich with words. It's so many diverse words that say the same thing, or appear to say the same thing, because that's what was always the confusion for me, was like, well, what are you saying? Do you mean this or do you mean that? And I wasn't able to ask those questions then, because I was just sort of right inside myself going and fearing, sort of thinking, well, am I stupid because I don't know? Whereas now it's like, okay, I can ask those questions because I don't know. What do you actually mean? You're saying this. Is that what you mean? Because I've gone this way. This is how I'm seeing it or how I'm hearing it. And this is the meaning that I'm taking from it. So it's about this, the communication, again, as we always come back to, is key. Being able to have those conversations without fear of judgment, without fear of being made wrong or being made, to feel silly or stupid because you're asking the question. It's around being allowed to ask those questions, challenge what is being said, and come to a mutual agreement and actually discover something new together. There's a whole vast vocabulary out there that both of you probably never even heard of, words you never heard of. So it might be great to explore it together, So
it's a great way to do it. And what you made me think of is especially asking questions in any situation of odds, especially we're talking about the odds, right, in relationships. Ask questions. I mean, if your partner makes you feel bad because you're asking a question, probably not the right person to be with. You Once you go into self-development and you explore yourself, one of the first things that you learn is asking questions. The more questions you ask, asking them the right way, obviously. How does this affect me? How do I feel about this? How do I want to change this to the better? How can this be perceived in a different perspective? How does my partner perceive this situation, right? And like you were mentioning now, Caroline, is actually exploring those questions by presenting them to your partner and saying, look here, I understand it this way. I want to understand what you mean in this situation or in that situation. I want to understand more about what you mean because I don't want to be I don't want to be assuming that you're saying something negative or that you're saying something that I don't like or that you're disagreeing about something that we had agreed upon previously. And it's all about how to formulate your questions without even having, of course, a partner that doesn't get irritated because you're asking a question. I mean, yes, as teachers and as coaches and psychologists, there are, between quotation, no stupid questions. Sometimes there are some stupid questions, and there are also even stupider, or like, if I can say that, dumber answers. But in a situation where you're wanting to beat odds at that stage, there are no stupid questions. Ask away, right? The more questions you ask, the more answers you'll have, the less offended you will be. Like I always say, it's not my problem. I'm going to say stuff. If you do get offended, it's your complete problem. It's not mine. I don't care what happens inside of your heart and your head and how you want to feel about things. It's your issue, not mine. So instead of going
Yeah.
that way in a relationship, I'm not talking about relationship. I'm talking about in general.
Okay.
Because I do say stuff that offends people randomly. Not randomly.
All the time. Okay,
All
I
the
get
time
it.
on purpose, just
You
to
just say
just
it,
to
yeah,
piss
just to
people
be,
off. I just do it to play
to
with
set
people.
I,
people
I
off.
think
I
I
know.
think you come out. I don't think you say stuff to offend people.
No,
No.
people
I
get
think I've
offended.
I've
People
seen
get
you when you
offended.
communicate with me. I think when you're honest, people get offended.
That's it, exactly, and that's why I
Yeah,
say it's
people get
your issue if
offended
you do
when
get
you're
offended.
honest.
Yeah.
So even myself, I'm honest. Like if I want
Mm-mm.
to ask a question, I go straight to the question. I ask that question. So sometimes the people get offended when you ask them truthfully, but I think we're meant to actually, when somebody asks you an honest question, you're not meant to be offended. You're
Exactly,
meant
especially
to
in that
like pay
relationship.
attention, be in the
Mm-hmm.
present moment,
Yeah.
and really ask yourself about really what do I really want.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
you're pushing it towards that question that I want to say. Okay, so my partner is asking me this question. What did I say, or how did I act to make my partner feel or think that way? I didn't want that to happen. I want something else to happen. How can I change it without saying I didn't mean that or I didn't? It's how to reformulate, how to reframe, like we always do, reframe your questions, reframe your sentences, reformulate and use different words. The very simple one is like everybody goes from happy to angry. There's a wide range of words and expressions from here to there. It's like it's not anger. I'm angry. No, it's like I'm irritated. I'm annoyed. I'm upset. I'm, irate. I'm livid.
Yeah, I'm even hurt. Maybe I'm hurt.
Yeah,
There's
there
a
you go.
saying
I'm
about that
hurt.
our language is rich with, of such a variety. And
Mm-mm.
it is finding, I love that whole spread. And actually, emotions is something a lot of people find very difficult to find a word to describe it
Mm-hmm.
because they're not actually able to be in it. It's like they're up in their head, so they're searching for it, but actually it's not there. It's feeling the emotion and it's then having a word that will go with that. And it's your word. And it took me a long time to actually realize the difference between anger and rage. I suddenly went, oh my goodness, this is rage. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just
Yeah,
anger, or
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just
yeah.
very, very angry. It's rage. And I could feel the difference. And it was just amazing to be able to give a word to something that I hadn't been able to distinguish before.
Mm-mm.
So distinguishing different emotions, getting that whole range of vocabulary. Because as I say, I work with people with a with emotions, with something called emotional journey, and keeping people in their body and out of their head and feeling the emotion or describing it is hard work for a lot of people to get there. And it's actually being able to work with what they're saying and keep bringing them back to the body, keep bringing them back. And eventually they say there is a breakthrough. And
The thing,
they'll find
yeah.
words, and it's like, oh, and words will start to come. And it's amazing, what does come out. And it's like, it's your word. It's okay, whatever word you use. It's okay. I'm not expecting you to use a certain word to describe your emotion, but it's actually about being in touch with your emotion and not pushing it away or not going into story with it. It's owning it, being with it, and giving it a word, labeling it. And this is where our education system actually causes a lot of stress, because we're given the words before we have the experience. So we're given the coding and expected to then understand. Whereas the way our brain actually works efficiently is you have the experience first, and then you code it, and then you open up to more. It's like, if you do it the first way around, the way we're taught, you're given the word and you then expect to experience it. That's where stress is, and that's where you end up shutting down. So that's why you can't remember a lot of things. Whereas if you're given the experience and then you code it, you put the words and the language to it, it's like, oh, right, got it. And that is, and there's an opening up within your whole system. And that's what's in educational kinesiology terms is what Paul Dennison calls the dynamic brain. And you can see where people shut down and where they open up.
And you know what, you expressed it in a very nice way. You feel it first, and then you emotion. I mean, people use emotions and feeling interchangeably. However, there's a clear distinction, especially with emotion, because if you go back to the root of it, the etymology, in Latin, movere, move, and is ex or out. So your emotion, if you cut it linguistically, it means to move out. Your feelings are internal, how you're feeling inside your head, and then once you express it outwardly, whether it's with your behavior or with your words, that's when it becomes an emotion. And so what you're expressing here, if you learn inside what it feels like, how does it make you, the senses that are moving around, then you can learn how to, okay, so I want to emote it in this way. I want to exit it and move it out of my internal being to the external, whether in my behavior, in words, in expressions, however it wants to go, right? It's a flip, it's a coin. Both of them are two sides. It's the same. One is head, one is tail, one is feelings, and one is emotion. Or one has a deeper meaning where it's to emovere, Latin. Out, movere, move.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
And also I think religion and culture as well. It destroys the relationship, because sometimes you may find that, because I've seen it like with people, like people in my church who are religious, they'll bring the culture into religion. But religion in the Bible, culture and religion, it does not work together. It's completely separate. And then when it comes to relationship as well, like I'll say people in my culture, like they will bring the relationship in the culture as well. I'm like, why don't you just keep things very, very simple, no complicating things? Because like my pastor will be like asking questions like, there's this culture in your culture. Yes, some culture exists, but some culture made up. So he will be asking like questions like, in the culture, there's this that needs to be done. But you have to ask yourself, who created that? Was it God? Or was it an ancestor that decided to create this? And sometimes I go back and ask my mom, I'll be like, Mom, you believe in this? What does that even mean? Who started it? And my mom will be like, I don't even know. So I'm like, I'm out of that part, because you don't even know, and you don't even know the history about it. And my mom will be like, maybe somebody back in our generation started it in our culture, and then everybody started doing it. And then I'll be like, okay. Then I'll go back and ask her questions. I'll be like, you doing this? Why are we doing it? And she'll be like, and then I'll be like, I'm out of that. So there are some things that I'm out of it. And she is following me as well. She goes, following things that you don't even know when they begin. So I might as well get out of it. So
Mm-mm.
sometimes the culture, it destroys, and religion, it destroys as well. Because like I go to church and my pastor goes, do not bring religious into this church, because church is not about religious. When it becomes religious, when they become like Church of England, where people say this, it's no longer a church anymore. So church is just church. You follow the Bible, what is written in the Bible, what God says, that's what it goes, not made up things. So for me, I hear people coming to me and they'll be making things up, and I'll be like, you don't have to tell me this is what I need to do, because I'm just enjoying spending time with God. So that's all I know. But some people, they like, you have to do this. You got like, no, I don't have to do that. I just have to follow the Bible, what it says. And when I get home, and actually the simplest thing, Carol Ann, like if there's any Christian person, a religious person that is watching, the simplest thing is never try to convert anybody. Is just praying. If your prayer is from God, the prayer convert people.
There's a thing in what you're saying. I mean, obviously, religion and culture does come into play in relationships, especially when you have mixed cultured couples. And these can be at odds. Like you're saying, some things you take, some things you leave. And these have to come out of conversations that you have with each other. This culture style is not for me. I don't like that. I don't want my kids to follow this. I don't want to have kids that follow that. If that person is adamant that no, they're going to follow this is what, then the relationship at that point it's a gap. It doesn't work anymore. And so there has to be a conversation about culture. There has to be a conversation about religion, especially if both of them are, whether they believe, I'm going to say believe in God. I'm not going to say religious. I'm going to say believe in God, or believe in a
But believing God is a choice. You cannot stop your
it's not
children
about
believing
that.
in God.
It's not about that. No, I'm saying it's about how are you going to cope with it. If you come into a relationship believing that, okay, you know what? I'm Christian, my children will be brought up Christian, and your partner says, no, not gonna happen. I don't believe in God. I want them to be raised atheists. Then there's a gap.
But
The
you cannot
relationship
make a
doesn't.
choice for the children, though, because
I'm
it's
just
not your
talking,
place.
I'm talking in general. This is what happens in families. This is
Yeah.
not, in the majority of people do that. And they say, oh, you could choose whatever. However, a lot of people are not educated enough. And so they bring their religion with them. They bring their beliefs into a relationship, like you mentioned. And it causes separation. It causes odds in a relationship because one partner wants it, one partner doesn't. One partner believes one thing, one partner doesn't believe another thing. So these are things that, as Caroline and I were mentioning in the beginning, these are things that kind of have to be discussed in the very start of a relationship. And so, however, bringing certain cultures later on, you're the same culture and say like, I don't know, something that I find like stupid when somebody tells me, I go completely, I look at them like they're the dumbest human being on the planet. And it's especially this, they say, oh no, it's our culture to drink. I said, no, it's not culture. It's not your tradition. You're just imbeciles that like drinking. That's all.
How
You
can
like to
it
get
be a
wasted and
culture to
be.
drink alcohol? Come out. That's not a culture.
No, some tradition, some cultures, some people believe that it's part of their
No,
culture.
it's not.
I know
No,
it's
but this
not.
is what not Kamal's saying is that some people believe that it
Some
is.
people believe it
He's not
is.
saying that it is, but and it's like, where does it begin? And this is
Exactly,
what
right?
reminds me of a
Yeah.
story, actually, because we were talking about culture and Nomsa, and it
That's
reminds me of a
work.
story of somebody that her mum used to cut off the end of the ham before she put it in the oven.
Yeah.
And her daughter asked her, well, why'd you do that, Mum? So I don't know. My mum used to do it. So they asked that mum, well, why? I don't know, because my mum used to do it. And eventually it turns out it started in the beginning because the ham was too big for the tin. That's why it was cut off to put in the oven. You know, so where do these things start?
Right.
Like
They just do these
crazy
things, like
you carry on doing it just because
right?
they did it.
Yeah.
You don't know the real reason.
No, that's it. And
I
that's the
love that
whole
story.
thing,
I just
right?
thought, oh God.
It's a wonderful story which explains traditions and culture, right? People stick to traditions as if they're the bread and water that they will and salt that they will survive on it. No,
Yeah,
tradition can be changed. Tradition can be made new in a house. I follow the
absolutely.
traditions that I like. I celebrate Mother's Day like the ancient Egyptians because it makes more sense, because it's the start of spring, because it was the celebration of the goddess Isis. Makes absolute sense. Spring, fertility, goddess of mothers and the fertility and children and all of that. Yes, start of spring, everything blooms. Makes sense to me. I don't follow any other Mother's Day. Valentine's Day, rubbish, waste of time. Christmas, wrong date. I don't follow anyway. I do put a tree and all of that, which is pagan, but I do it because it's fun for the kids, right?
Mm.
The traditions, like I make my own traditions in my home, right? And so if you can agree with a partner to create your own traditions because some of them don't make sense, that's a wonderful way to overcome these odds of cultural differences.
For me personally, I feel that it's like sometimes I feel like people they are bothered with somebody else's business, what they do. But I say to somebody, I'm okay with you coming with your beliefs.
Yeah.
Not dating though. I'm okay with you as a friend. You come with your beliefs. You tell me about your beliefs. I tell you about my beliefs.
Mhm.
But whatever you do is none of my business.
That's it.
And when it comes to dating now is like my spouse is not religious. I go to church, but I'm not that religious person that because I came across with God and Lucifer, so I know how it works. So when I go to church, I'm not gonna waste my time in trying to convert somebody to follow God. What I do is for me, I just pray to God and say, in secret. I pray in secret because I've learned that there's no way if I can go to Kamau in my own power and try to convert Kamau. For me, if I need God to heal Kamal, I just pray in secret. If I need God to do something in somebody, I just pray in secret and I watch him doing the results. And sometimes I find those people that don't actually believe in him, when he heals them, they'll come back and tell me that God does not exist. And I just look at them and I just only, if you knew, you would not be saying those things. And then I just keep my mouth shut. So I got taught by my pastor that not everybody else has to know what you're praying. You just keep your mouth shut and you just don't waste the time in trying to convert people. So I don't waste my time with my spouse and talking about religion to God. I know that if God wants him, if he does not belong to any other gods with his family, God it will belong to him. So I don't really like spend time saying religion and talk about religion. I just go to church and mind my own business. And that's what I do. When it comes to my own culture, I came to question my culture as well. That who created that? Like Carol Ann says, something is started by somebody. Like if I create my own thing now at Ngosi talk shows and I give people back home in Africa, it becomes a culture. So I started questioning things. My children are just being raised. They're English, half African. They know they are half African. They know they are half English. So I don't say I'm gonna raise my children with African culture because they're not really African cultures. They are half. So when I go home, my mom will tell them about my family history, or I tell them about my family history, and that's what I know.
That's right.
I
And
like
it's
that.
not about converting anybody, because if you're trying to convert someone, then you're making wrong what
It's
they
my power. I'm
believe.
using my force.
Exactly. You're putting your force and your will on somebody, and that doesn't work, because then you're not honoring that person, not being respectful of that person. And therefore then that relationship certainly won't beat the odds,
Mm-mm-mm.
because that is a huge odd to overcome,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
someone's expectation of you and attempted to put their will on you. That's a relationship that won't survive.
I mean, we can even use that word to talk about the normal things of everyday life in a relationship, right? That you want to convert someone to your way of thinking, to your way of doing things at home, to your reality, when in fact it's okay, it doesn't work that way, right? Then you don't that the odds will always be there because somebody's being
Mm.
forced, manipulated, or uh, I don't know. They're forced to do something that they're not feeling well. They don't sit at ease with it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm,
So it comes back to that communication and respecting each other, and
definitely.
sitting down and having those conversations of, well, what is happening, for you. So you're actually open and honest. And again, it comes back to being honest. Well, I'm not very comfortable with this, with you expecting this of me. I didn't
Hmm.
think that's how we'd started this relationship. But it's being able to have that confidence in yourself, to be that outspoken and stand up for yourself, and also secure in yourself that if that relationship fell apart, then it falls apart and you will find somebody else, or you'll be okay on your own until you do. If you're meant to find someone else, find
Yeah.
someone else, because that's holding on to a relationship with fear of not being able to survive outside of it. That doesn't work. That's where I was at. It doesn't work. It doesn't make for a comfortable, harmonious relationship. And yeah, so it's about, again, being open and honest with yourself first, knowing yourself. So I think there's I love this quote that I found. It's an anonymous one. A strong relationship requires choosing to love each other, even in those moments when you struggle to like each other.
Hmm.
And those times will come, because there'll be things that, person does and you go, oh, I don't like that. And so it's not collapsing whether you love them with that liking their behavior or not liking their behavior, because it's still love them. There's that deep, deep connection. And therefore you find a way through, you talk about it, and you create plans, and even if you can't do it together, you reach out and you get support, professional
Hmm.
support. And
Hmm.
again, that's what we're here for. Any one of us can sit with you and help just talk through, so you can come to a mutual agreement and move forward together in harmony.
I
So
like
that
that very
was
much, Caroline. And you're since we're talking about odds and overcoming odds in relationship, there's a quote that talks about love from Maya Angelou, and
mhm.
it combines the hurdles and everything together. So love recognizes no barriers. It
Mhm.
jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. Right? And
Yes.
so that's
Love that
exactly
one.
what you're saying as
Yeah.
well, where,
Yeah.
or what we're saying, where you want to
Mhm.
find a solution to those hurdles, to these odds. This is
Mhm.
why we do what we do. We enjoy helping people overcome things and uh, go through life and have a smile on their face every day, like we mostly have. I believe you have it as well. You have it. I'm always, people ask, why are you always smiling? Well, because I got nothing to care about. That's not true. It's nice, right?
Oh,
This is
yeah.
what happens to you. You have that um gonna quote Kung Fu Panda, inner peace
Mhm.
that gives you that
Oh,
freedom to smile and
yeah.
overcome any hurdle, no matter what. Ask questions, and
Mhm.
we're here to help you out. That's if you need us.
Mm. So there's just one more quote I'd like to leave
Yeah.
people with is, the greater the obstacle, the more glory in overcoming it together.
Hmm.
Yes,
Right.
overcoming. And also for me is just understand that the journey of unbreakable relationship is an ongoing and requires effort and patience and dedication. And when you learn resilience as well as couple and applying proven strategies, couples can navigate the complexities
It's coming out there. It
of
is.
life together and emerge stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And whatever you are, guys, do not try to control each other in a relationship or never try to compare your relationship with anybody. It's a journey that comes with its own challenges as individual.
Yeah.
Live with grace, everyone. If you're watching us from YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. There's something that YouTube I've noticed. I don't know if anyone is experiencing the same thing. Every channel that I like, when I go back, I have to subscribe again and again. I don't know why. So, guys, subscribe to our channel. And on Facebook, we have 2 groups, and Unique Billionaire Mindset and Gossip Talk Shows. Please do join the group, and also go to the website www.hseia.coach. And if you're looking for love, you can go to the different pages. If you're looking to find your own voice, there's another page as well for you to sign up and get in touch with us. And live with grace, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow with Amanda and Grant. If not Grant is going through challenges. Please, guys, put him in prayers at this minute. He needs prayers and his family. God bless.